Correctional facility soup, or what is correctional facility soup? I look at the correction system as a big bowl of soup, or refer to it as soup, because a lot of times soup is referred to as something everything gets thrown into. There's a lot of different combinations and ratios of ingredients, and that's correctional facilities. I've traveled to a lot of them with my time at CGL, and also in my previous profession as chief over the jail system in Maricopa County, and it's no two of them are alike. A lot of people are trying to accomplish the same mission and the same goals, but they're a bowl of soup. They all have their different takes. The chef's different takes. The person, the end user has a different take. You may have two facilities that are very similar that are used in very different ways. I like to use analogies to talk about things that are not common, that people don't have a lot of experience with, and liken them to things that we know, just to kind of draw parallels to get people to think a little bit different. But it's just really trying to break things down in their most basic elements to talk about everything we do in our lives, every decision that we make, whether it's the food that we eat, the places that we live, the schools we send our kids to, all of those things. We have to balance the resources required, the cost of those things with their effectiveness, and what the impact and outcome is of those. So that's kind of, I guess I'm just an analogy guy, and that's why I try to explain those things to people that don't have that experience with them. A lot of people in society don't want to spend a lot of money on a correctional facility, because we all kind of have that viewpoint of, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen, I don't break the law, I'm never going to jail, so why should a lot of my money be dedicated to the criminal justice system? But we have to think of the effects of a poor criminal justice system, and the effects are similar to a poor can of soup. They don't get used effectively, they sit there, they're kind of a waste of money, they turn out bad results. So when I talk about a good bowl of soup in the term of correctional facility, a facility that's safe, a facility that's secure, but also has good space for programs and services, and actually focuses resources in the best way that it can to get the most impact in which it's there for. And the reason we have correctional facilities and county jails and prisons to remove people from our society and populations that are a danger to society, danger to the community. But we also know that they're not there forever. So we're removing them from society to remove that danger. But if we are not doing anything in their time there to reconfigure the way that they see things, the way that they think, we're not really doing much for ourselves, and in turn could be costing ourselves more money and danger down the line. If we're not preparing people to transition into the community, they're just going to come back. We're just going to buy another bowl of bad soup, so to speak. So, but there's a balance there, and I think that's something, the point that I'm trying to make here is there's a balance, because yes, we don't want to spend all of our valuable resources when there are other things. There's, schools and roadways and other things that our tax dollars go for. But the point is, we have to find out what that balance is for our community and the areas that we live in, to make sure that we're impacting the root cause of the problem. The Ferrari de Chicken Noodle is the facility that has everything you would ever want in a correctional facility. It's got natural light, it's got all the space you could ever need for staff, it provides spaces for programming, it's completely staffed 100%, highly effective security-wise, has everything you would ever want, but it's very expensive. On the other end of that spectrum, you have the generic soup, that what we consider to be the warehousing of people in the criminal justice system. Very minimal. You're running this facility with minimal, probably below minimal levels of staffing. There's not a lot of encouragement and resources for people that are incarcerated that encourages them to follow rules and regulations, to participate in programmings and things like that that are beneficial for reentry into the community. So we're really talking about those two terms is the very broad end of the spectrum. And I guess what I'm trying to say, the difference between Friday Chicken Noodle and generic is maybe Campbell's Chunky Chicken Noodle. It's a good alternative in the middle. It's something that tastes good, it's not cheap, it's not bad for your health. Again, I keep coming back to the balance of the most effectiveness with our resources. When in my last career at Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in Phoenix, I was the chair of a criminal justice coordinating council referred to as Smart Justice. And Smart Justice was really designed and focused on making the best use of limited resources to have an impact on the criminal justice system. It wasn't a political group. It wasn't conservative. It wasn't liberal. It was, we have a very finite amount of resources available to us. How can we utilize those in the best way possible to have an impact on the criminal justice population, to keep people safe, take into consideration reentries into the community without overspending and wasting taxpayer dollars when there are other programs and things out there that require government resources. I think in general, soup is soup, right? It's really a form of, it's a liquid food, you know, and you can put different things in there to make minor adjustments for, you know, whoever's consuming the soup. And same is true for local criminal justice systems. A lot of local systems have different statutes and laws and things like that. So really, when you're looking to make the perfect bowl of soup or the perfect correctional facility, you have to take all of those things into consideration and create that balance. You want to take into consideration safety and security. The one thing that always gets forgotten about is the employees that work there, the corrections officers, the civilian staff, the volunteers. You have to take into consideration people involved in the criminal justice system, the impact that that facility has on, you know, where those people will go next, the direction that they turn in. Actually, the staff is who I'm most concerned about, because that's my origin. That's where I grew up. I came up through the ranks as a corrections officer, detention officer, as we refer to them at Maricopa County. And in a lot of the facilities that I've visited in my tenure that focus a lot of attention on strategic inmate management, direct supervision, programming, and services, it's a much more desirable environment for the employees. The facilities are typically quieter, they're cleaner, the staff typically are treated with respect, inmates treat each other with respect, there's a lot less uses of force and things like that. So really trying to convince the folks that work there what the true intent is in transitioning that culture. But I found what was really helpful for me was trying to get other people to bring people in that had that positive outlook. And where I found that on a lot of people was typically newer employees that had less experience in the correction system. They weren't as difficult to change the minds of. Change just in its nature is difficult for all human beings. So when you talk about, you know, detention correction officers that have been, they've known things a certain way for 10, 20, 30 years, it's very difficult to change their mindset on what works best. And they may not see, or they may not even realize the differences that are out there or the possibilities that are out there. So really trying to shift that culture and understanding how it's beneficial to everybody. It's a huge ship to turn around. When we started this effort several years ago, we're talking about 6 different jail facilities with, you know, upwards of 10,000 inmates and 2,000 employees. But the key for me was not trying to make that change overnight, not waking up one day and saying, guess what, this is what we're doing today. You're not going to be very successful in that effort. You really have to take the time to educate people, to bring them into the fray of decision-making, education. You have to empower other people to be a part of that process. And as that happens, you know, you really start to build a momentum, and it needs to be the effort of a group of people and not just one individual trying to make those changes, because it will never be successful in that respect. You have to start building that case. You have to start showing people the benefits, and eventually it's like a snowball. It picks up steam, it grows, and from there it just kind of takes on a life of its own and starts moving in that direction. So, but it's hard to get there, and it's really hard to make the decision to move in that direction, because the way we are trained and the way that we are structured in law enforcement, you know, people are protective of their positions. You work very hard to get in your position, you work very hard to get promoted, and the last thing you want to do is buck the system and try and change direction and make people angry. But it's really not about that. It's how are we moving our society forward? How are we moving the ball forward and trying to improve things for the community, not just staying in our secure, safe areas that we've been used to all of our lives. Really, information sharing. For me, in my past career, the most important thing that I ever did was to get out and be able to see what people were doing in other jurisdictions, talking to people, understanding, you know, how people do things differently. And that comes in the form of traveling to other locations, which can be expensive and not realistic for others, professional articles, organizations, networking, you know, just having resources to be able to get outside of your own focus in your own world and to understand that there are better ways of doing things and there are things that are successful in other places. So how do you experience those? How do you get to see those? That's That's really what I love about my job here at CGL, and I think that's the value we bring at CGL to a lot of these. When I was a chief over jails, I didn't have time to go travel a lot or to talk to other people. You're very hyper focused on what's going on that particular day in your agency, and just having those experts and those relationships with people that do have that ability. And my time at CGL, I've traveled to a lot of jails. I've met with a lot of people. I've talked to folks. I've seen a lot of different approaches to the same problems. There's a lot of research and information, and that's really the value that is brought, is understanding that wide variety of possibilities out there when people that are spread very thin and don't have the time to go out and see it for themselves.